My name is Virgil Flores. I represent a company called Real Estate Risk Management. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Wong, Ms. Burr, Mr. Yang. Thank you for this opportunity. I greatly value and respect your time today. I came here to talk to you about something that's very serious, that's a problem for all realtors, especially here in California. Thank you. I don't want to spoil anyone's day, but I am here to tell you about what is probably the biggest problem facing realtors, and it's what we call the disease of litigation. And first, I just want to give you a little background about myself. My name again, Virgil Flores Jr., my father, Virgil Flores Sr. Some of you might know. And my sister's name is Virgil, no. And my father started a little publishing company back in the 80s in a city called Concord, California, up in the East Bay. And what happened is that he was very successful. It was a little city magazine. It was his dream to be own his own company, be his own boss. And then it became a family business. And so what happened is that we were so successful that the crosstown competitor, a much more established newspaper publisher, I won't go into any names, decided that we were doing so well that they would start to engage us in a series of frivolous nuisance legal actions. And we did not know it at the time. We were new to this thing called civil litigation, so we were kind of mystified as to what was this person's biggest problem. And it was just simply that this was their tactic, a well-practiced tactic they would use to basically wear down their opponent. If someone was doing too well in their marketplace, and we were gaining a lot of exposure and bringing in a lot of ad dollars, that they would then, they had a lot of lawyers, of course, they would start to name us in all of these frivolous type lawsuits. My father would lament about how he had to carry around reams of lawsuits, reams of legal bills in his briefcase. Of course, the only way he could respond was he had to go out and hire an attorney, as many of you might have hopefully never had to do, but if you ever have, I can tell you it's a pretty expensive situation. Most attorneys will charge $300 or $400 an hour. And it's almost similar to getting into a taxi cab, but there's no end to when you might make it to the airport. The meter starts and then it just continues to roll. And so what happened is that eventually, even though we did nothing wrong, I promise you, eventually it caused the demise of my father's company. Because he could not support, not only could he not invest the time involved, depositions and interrogatories and court appearances, but he could really not support the high cost of the legal defense. He tried his best. We worked very hard. Eventually, though, it caused our company to fail. Well, that was a very dark day in my father's life and my family's history, because he said that, how is it in this great country that something like this could happen? We have a great legal system, but what he discovered was what I'm here to talk about, and that is the dark side of civil litigation. So he was there in Concord in kind of the ruins of his life, you might say. After spending all of his life trying to attain something, now he was without a company. And he lived next door to a realtor, a Better Homes and Gardens realtor, since passed on, sad to say. A fine man that told my father, he said, "Virgil, nobody has been beaten up by the legal system like you have." And what I want to tell you about is that as a realtor, we're faced with a lot of these same problems. As a realtor, we're constantly targeted by unhappy buyers and sellers that don't disclose, or all these other myriad of problems that come out of trying to help people buy or sell real estate. And what happens is that if someone threatens us, we have to respond as well. And we're not, typically, we're not the person responsible. That's what they said. The realtors in this state that we talk to and work with over the past 25 years, we don't see where they've done anything wrong. They helped the buyer buy, they helped the seller sell, they stayed up and worked weekends and nights to try and make that the best transaction possible. They went to school, they went through, they filled out reams of paper, to be exact, in everything they did. But now, of course, the buyer has moved into their new house. I say that they expect that it's going to be Hearst Castle. But somewhere between Hearst Castle and this 40-year-old fixer-upper is their unfulfilled expectations. And then, of course, you have a seller who's maybe not so forthcoming about every last little detail. They might have gotten it fixed, it might have been up to code, but who knows? So who do they always come back to? Well, the seller is gone, right? The seller, I picture him in Hawaii. They have a little drink, an umbrella. They've got their money. They're not really too interested in what the buyer's problem is, are they? In fact, the one person that they always find to be a favorite target, here in California especially, is the California realtor. You're the licensed professional. You should have been there to make sure this didn't happen. Now, how is that possible? How could you possibly have known that there was a cracked foundation? How would you possibly have known all the little hidden defects in every little home? It's impossible. You didn't cause it, and you couldn't have possibly prevented it. Now, right about that time, or thereabouts, I should say, something else happened that was a dramatically changing event in real estate. It was called the Easton Act. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. Easton, E-A-S-T-O-N, you can Google it. Well, what the Easton Act said is that a realtor could be held legally responsible for what they should have known or even could have known. Well, I can only tell you that at that moment, about 150,000 attorneys here in our state went yippee. And they all had a big party. Because, I'll tell you why. Complex transaction, unhappy buyer equals free money from what they call the Bank of E&O. Everybody knows about your E&O policy. I'll talk about that. Because what they figured out is they don't have to find any kind of they don't have to base their lawsuit on anything factual. Not really. In this world, all they have to do is make the allegation. That they can allege that the realtor knew or didn't know, they should have known or could have known. And what they're going to do is they're going to put you into what is called a settlement mill. I don't want to overstate this, but it is something that's very important to know. When you go into that settlement mill, our own association says you'll lose 3 months of productivity. I've been doing this a while. I talked to a broker the other day. She pulled me aside after the meeting. She said, let me tell you, Virgil. She said, it wasn't 3 weeks of or 3 months of productivity. It was a year of mine and my husband's life. In fact, it was really kind of emotional for her when she described how her husband, he became so burdened by this that he could not operate the company anymore. Little mom and pop shop, Century 21, salt of the earth people, wouldn't harm anyone. Well-trained, seasoned, but anyway, the husband became just basically could not leave the house. And when they take you into this settlement mill, I'll tell you what they do. They put you in rooms and they call them mediations. You might have heard of this. You have to mediate before you litigate. And what they do is they sometimes use these it's a little bit of a threatening tactic where they'll position like this camera, but they position it behind you. And they said how they badgered you and they dragged you through this long process. Now you have to go out and hire your own attorney, right? Because right now, you see, it's not a claim. It's not something you necessarily want to just turn over to E&O. This is just a threat. They're making a demand. So then what happens is that all of a sudden your time starts to evaporate, and that is our most valuable resource. Time is money, especially in our business. So she said it took a year out of my life, and also we had to hire our own attorney. And this guy, it was like he wanted to charge me every time he faxed a piece of paper. 15 minutes on the phone, he called it an hour. 400, 400, 400. So I got on a mission. Me and my father did. And how much time do I have? I don't want to take too much time.
If it's interesting, you can have the whole thing.
Good. Because I think it is the most important meeting you might ever attend. And I don't believe I'm overstating it. So I kind of got on a mission, so did my father, because we said we could do something about this. Here's the good news. We could get together with other realtors. And what we would do is we would say, if you threaten a realtor, just know that they are not going to pay 1 penny. And in fact, if you try to extort any more money from them, we'll sue you. Now, what a crazy concept. You mean to say that there's a company out there, and I'm not here to sell you on my services. Of course, I'm the only company that offers it in the United States, but that's beside the point. Call me. You've got my card. But here's what I want to talk to you about. The power of a group. Now we have 20,000 realtors in 3 states. I see some friendly faces there. Mr. Luna, thank you for your service, by the way, sir. Vince, how are you? I came here today to give you the good news. I didn't want to spoil your day. But I want to talk one thing else before I get off track, which I do. I get excited. You have what is called errors and omissions insurance, right? Everybody knows about that. I heard at one point, maybe some of the more seasoned real estate professionals will know this, but I guess that they did not always have E&O. But now it's pretty much, you have to have E&O. E&O insurance, of course, is like malpractice for doctors. Oh, by the way, guess who's the second most sued industry now in California? Second only to doctors. You got it. So E&O is good. E&O you have to have, because of course if you got ever hit with some big settlement, you know, they found that there was toxic mold, and now they were going to ask you to pay out 100 or 200 grand. You wouldn't lose your house. You would want to have insurance for that. But here's where a good idea went really bad. The E&O insurance companies figured out a way to get rid of these people real quick. Don't fight, just settle. Because they don't want to spend. They're business people. They just look at the money. They don't know about who's right or wrong. They just simply said, we'll pay up to $1 million if you get found guilty and there's a settlement or a judgment against you. But for us to do that, we want you to pay me $5 grand up front. Most of the time. I've heard of these E&O deductibles, they're as high as $50,000. I quoted a guy, I'm an insurance broker, $50,000 deductible. And I can tell you that the E&O company did not want his business. But what the E&O company did is they basically took that $5,000, and this is where it got really bad, and they gave it to the lawyer that was suing you. Now the lawyer gave a little bit to the buyer, but not very much. He's got a big bill. He's got a big, beautiful Mercedes. He's got to pay for that. So what he did is he extracted money from you because you were in a no-win situation. Here's your options. You could go ahead and hire your own attorney, but that could cost way more than what they're asking. You could turn it over to your E&O insurance and pay the $5,000 or $10,000 in the form of that deductible, because that's what has to happen right away. Or what could you do? You could pay them off. They had you right where they wanted you. And it's wrong. It's a bad system. So the E&O companies, that's all they do now, is they take in the problem, they bring you to a mediation, they say, listen, this thing's going to cost way more in legal defense than it's worth, so it's not worth fighting. So we're going to just roll over and we're going to pay them off. Got it. And they said, by the way, if you decide you don't want us to settle, They have what's called a hammer clause in that E&O policy. You can look for it. I don't even know if it's called that, but I called it that. The hammer clause says that if you refuse to settle right now, when we say, even though you did nothing wrong, you'll pay the bill. So they leave you no options. Okay, so here's the good news. We formed a company in 1987. And our sole purpose in our business life, in our personal life, in my family's life, is to do one thing like no other company. And that is to defend California realtors. And to tell again that anybody that tries to name our client in a frivolous nuisance lawsuit, they will pay nothing. We will pay nothing, they will pay nothing. Well, we're never going to settle with our client's money. That's the attitude you have to take. Because the only way to stop an extortionist is to tell them you'll never pay 1 penny. So I came here today is to offer you what I call legal peace of mind. Maybe some of you have your own corporate attorney. But of course the cost for that could be very high. And keep in mind too that everything after you've been threatened is all reactive. What I'm here to offer you is proactive lawsuit prevention. And I'll say it again. Proactive lawsuit prevention. Now, people tell me all the time, how is that possible? What are you talking about? I have a system that has taken a long time to develop, but it absolutely has no flaws. And 93% of the time, we're stopping threats and demands from ever getting to your E&O. And I like to put my money where my big mouth is. If we can't stop the lawsuit, we'll pay the deductible. We'll pay the E&O deductible. So what it gives you is the ability to call an attorney anytime you just need legal advice. It's not the car hotline, because the car hotline, by the way, as good as they try to do, it is only there to give you a statement of law. I'm talking about you having an attorney like Kring and Chung out of Irvine, California with 200 lawyers at your beck and call. They're going to be there to answer legal questions, to advise you, so that you're not out there alone. And you're not always thinking about how much will it cost just to get the right answer. Also, they're going to review documents, any type of document. And this is any time you need to call them. There's no limit to the amount of times you may use this service. I've said again, and to reiterate, that the other part of our service is if any problem comes your way. Now, for some of you agents, I encourage you, please, go back to the broker and tell them, I want to come to every one of your office meetings. I will personally meet with you individually. It would be my honor. The point is that anytime there's a problem of any kind, threat, demand, small claims court, all the way to a DRE complaint, we are going to be there to defend you. And we're not just bringing in some new guy, we're bringing in attorneys that we've hand-selected, that we know that are experts in real estate law, which is another key point to this. Not every real estate attorney out there, not every attorney out there is an expert in real estate law, are they? There are some that maybe just only know one portion of it. So that's what you get. You get legal peace of mind. You get an attorney that you can call on anytime, anywhere. There's any kind of threat or demand for anything made upon you or your agent. It covers really anything you could do with your real estate license. Let me give you some examples. Everything from small claims court to representing you at mediation, arbitration, to also, again, paying your E&O deductible up to $10,000 per incident. If you got sued 5 times, please don't. We pay $5,000 or $10,000 every single time. Plus thousands of dollars in legal services we will provide to you on an unlimited basis. Now, where it actually got even more exciting, and I'll be here to answer questions now and then after the meeting, is how could we fund something like this, such a giant effort? How could we make legal services available anytime you wanted? It'd be like health insurance, wouldn't it? Through the power of large numbers. We have 20,000 people, I think I mentioned that, in 3 states that are members of our little club. And that's what I bring to you. That's what I bring to you, is a powerful group of realtors that have banded together, that have said we're not going to be extorted ever again. And 200 private practice attorneys that are on contractual basis with us to provide the services that I just said, in writing. Not just some words. Everything we say is in writing. So now when the buyer, so now when you have a large group of people, you could fight the good fight. You could fight the long fight. You're not going to be worried about or losing sleep about how much will it cost me in legal fees, how much will this, what about my E&O policy? What if I get too many dings on that? I know of a broker right now that took down the Century 21 sign because he couldn't afford the E&O. You have to have E&O. I talked to a broker the other day who said he can't get REO business because he can't get E&O. Your policies could blow up if you got too many lawsuits, right? Or they would make it too unaffordable. So now, as we grew, we started to provide even personal coverage on things like you have property that you buy or sell. E&O does not cover that. We do. If the E&O excludes something, I want to mention this, it's important to note. The E&O policy has a lot of little exclusions. Things like if they allege fraud. Well, now fraud, of course, is just a big, scary word they like to throw out every time to get the realtor to write them a check. But we're not afraid of that, and so anyway, when E&O excludes it, we still cover it. But where it got good is this, and in conclusion. I'm sure you're glad to hear that, no? We're going to provide your clients with something of great value for choosing you as their realtor. It's something that has never been done before in real estate, and I can tell you it's become the biggest thing we've ever done. Dilbeck, 14 offices, over 250 agents signed up. They have their own team of attorneys. They saw the value of this. Proud to mention that, not bragging, but that was a great day for us. You know, a very established company, very fine-run company. They saw the importance of this. Their corporate attorney sits in car, on the car panel. She endorsed us to all the agents. So now what we give them is something that they cannot get from any other realtor. So here's where I think we are going to change real estate. When the buyer or seller chooses you, guess what they get? An attorney. Not an attorney to sue you. I don't want anybody to, everybody always thinks that. An attorney to answer non-dispute legal questions. Non-dispute legal questions. Just transactional legal. How do I take title? What do I do in the, what about the tax implications of a short sale? All these legal questions that impede, block, or even destroy the sale will be answered by our attorneys. 0 fee up front. Nothing. They pay nothing. Because all we need is them to tell us, show us that they're your client. So we're going to give an attorney to you that's going to join your team, that's going to help guide your buyer and seller through the whole deal. I think it's going to really do a lot. I've already heard. People are telling me. The short sale legal advice I could not give them, or nor could my corporate attorney, came from your guy, and it didn't cost our people $300 an hour. It helped close the deal. It helps separate me from all the other realtors out there. People are looking for something more from their realtor. Tell me why I should pay you 6%. Well, I'm giving you an attorney that's going to guide you and handhold you through this very complex transaction. That's going to answer any legal questions you have and help you get into escrow. A short sale, I don't even need to go there, right? But there's a lot of other legal questions that pop up that they try to get you to answer. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You can have our service. And if it falls out of escrow, there is no fee. They could have called on us for many, many times and used our service. If it didn't go to escrow, there is no fee. It's only at the successful close of the transaction that we ask them to pay a very modest fee of $124. And you can add it to the net sheet. You have a legal right to do that. Put it on the residential purchase agreement, other costs. Pay it for it yourself. Give them a closing gift. One last thing, and I will take your questions. We also provide a 1-year mediation benefit. Two things I forgot. One is a 1-year mediation benefit, which satisfies the agreement, or satisfies the clause in the agreement that says that they will mediate. Satisfies it. So if there is a problem, give it to us. Outsource. Outsource your headaches to our company. Let me represent you, and we'll keep you out of court and legally healthy. I appreciate all your time today. Thank you.